At the heart of tonight's program, then, is a conversation between Representative Lily Qi and Ambassador Julia Chang Bloch, two women born in China who have dedicated their adult lives to public service in America of different kinds. Both are trailblazers in their own right, with a number of impressive firsts that you will hear more about in their conversation, and you can read more about in your program. To pick up if you didn't already get one, you may have. But first, I would like to say a few words about our special opening speakers who are going to share their own unique perspectives on our topic. Former Congresswoman and Ambassador Connie Morella needs no introduction to some of you, and she knows a few things about raising a human trail for women in public service. She was elected to the U.S. Congress in 1987 and represented Maryland State Legislature for 16 years. After that, she was appointed ambassador, U.S. ambassador to the OECD. She was the first ambassador to have served in Congress. She is the recipient of many national and international awards, and she's a member of the Maryland Delegate Hall of Fame. After that, we'll hear from Rebecca Lee, who's Deputy Director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. This office implements federal programs across the country to advance equity and opportunity for these communities in the United States. And finally, Christina Hoy will speak with us. She's one of the top Asian American officials in Governor Larry Hogan's administration. She directs Maryland Governor's Office of Asian Pacific American Affairs and South Asian American. She herself was greatly influenced in her career by Pauline Wu Sway, whose memory we're honoring tonight, and you can read about on the back page of your program.
That she is a force of nature. What you need to know emphatically is she really is the first Chinese immigrant to serve in the Maryland State Legislature. That is really quite an achievement. And as I said, read the other details about her life, her service in government, in academia, in nonprofits. So you had a very, very colorful, interesting first campaign. Yes. And you got a lot of media attention, even in the Washington Post and NPR. So how did you motivate the first-time voters, immigrants, to become involved? As I recall, you're saying that Asian Americans are the missing political voice, but no one is missing it. So how did you overcome that? Get your constituency involved. What lessons did you learn from that campaign?
Well, my 2018 campaign was really a watershed moment for the Asian American community, especially Chinese immigrant community. Because before that time, I had already been very involved and I was a pretty visible community leader. And people knew me as a government official, as a community leader. But once I declared my candidacy, I had to run as a Democrat. In my case, I'm a Democrat, so I ran as a Democrat. And that came as a surprise to some of my people, because immigrants, especially those of us who lived through the kind of society we lived through, wanted to stay away from politics, and especially political parties. If they're registered voters, they tend to be independent voters, which means their votes really don't count as much in a place like in Montgomery County, where the competition is in the primary and the Democratic primary. Okay, so in 2018, when I launched my campaign, I quickly realized something was not working because our people just, one, did not understand how the election system works and where their votes were needed to actually make a difference. Okay, and the second was I realized that besides having to educate our people, about that, I also had to run a separate campaign, a bilingual campaign to engage our people, to bring them along, So I had to explain democracy to our community, basically. So our campaign essentially transformed ourselves to become Democracy 101, Government 101, to explain to people Maryland is a state where we have closed the primary elections, unlike in the state of Virginia or California, right? And if you live in Maryland, you better register as a Republican or Democrat in order to be eligible to vote in the closed primary system. And that's just the system on the books. But in reality, if you live in Montgomery County, the most important election is the Democratic primary, and that's where I needed your help. So hold your nose, no matter what your Black political spectrum is, register as a Democrat, so your vote will matter. And interestingly, many of our people actually did. They changed the parties. And the funniest thing was, some people texted me and said, Lily, I just changed the party to vote for you. And then I realized I don't live in your district. Said, great, now you know who represents you. And that's the whole point. It doesn't matter whether you can vote for me or not, because what's important is we learn to vote in elections that matter. And that was what I learned. I think that was, I should have turned this way more often so you can hear me, right? And I think that was a big takeaway, which is one, our people didn't understand democracy, and two, they are so party averse that you literally had to grab them and say, get off the fence and get off the sideline, because this is where you are needed, So I just had a fabulous run running 2 concurrent campaigns, chasing the reliable Democratic votes and having a bilingual message using multimedia channel, including WeChat, local Chinese community media, all of that. But we also reached out to Korean community and Iranian community and the Muslim community, and South Asian community, and African immigrants, and they all had the same issues. So it's not just the Chinese communities. So it was quite a realization for me.
I think this program reminds me that there's a lot to admire and inspire in American politics, even though we all sometimes despair. But I thought this was a great program, and I want to thank all of you on Zoom and in person coming out on Giving Tuesday and supporting Asian Women Giving Back and supporting the U.S. China Education Trust. Thank you very much.